Central Alliance.
Get you to keep coming back for those prescription drugs.
So that goes right to our pharmacists.
But then you have the nice nature. Hello and welcome to a discussion with, I'm your host Brett Poirier, and I am here talking with some members of the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention. It's a difficult topic to talk about, but that's one of the reasons why we're here. I'm with Anna Mae O'Shea Brooke and Chelsea Goldstein-Walsh. Thank you first for coming in and talking with us today.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So one of the biggest things about this is a lot of people say suicide's such a difficult, it's almost a taboo topic to bring up. And I think one of the things that people don't realize is that there's a lot of things out there that are difficult. It's tough to build a house, but if you have the right tools and the right training, you can do it. And that's really what we're doing here, is giving people the right tools to be able to discuss this type of topic. So tell me a little bit, Anna Mae, you were kind of involved in the creation of the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention. Tell me how this all came about.
So essentially how it started, we had some unfortunate tragic events in town, and also there was an attempt, and there were lots of people talking either at sports games or I work at St. Edward's, at church. They were trying to process the events and just did not know where to go. And I just kept hearing this. And I was speaking to my colleague, like, what can we do? We're here, we're actually, I work at St. Edward's, and she said, you know what, call Medfield Youth Outreach. So I picked up the phone. I spoke to Dawn, she picked up, and she said, I'm so glad you called. I think we can organize, I can invite Riverside to come. What is the official name for Riverside?
Trauma Center?
Yes. And she invited Jim McCauley to come, and we mobilized quite quickly. This was not just for St. Edward's. This was, we invited the community to come, and we didn't even know what we were doing. We just said to come, let's talk, let's process. And a lot of people showed up that night. People from the schools, parents, community members. The room, yes, it was in the chapel. And Jim just helped us start to process. I don't know if anyone can fully process, but that was really the beginning. People are asking questions. How do I talk to my children about this? And there are a lot of different, as you say, it's very difficult to talk about. So none of us had the tools to talk about this, but Jim did a beautiful job in terms of just starting to educate us about suicide, and people don't even want to talk about it. So that was just really the first hurdle, is to come together to start talking, and really that was just the beginning.
That was the seed.
Yes, exactly.
And so now we have this wonderful discussion that happens, and then there's, we were talking a little bit about this, is there's all this energy now, and there's all these people who want to be involved and want something to happen here. So I think the Medfield Youth Outreach kind of took the lead here, and they contacted a bunch of community members. Tell me a little bit about that process and what you guys did.
Sure. So again, we got the phone call from Anna Mae, and that community meeting was held in June of 2017. And then there was all this energy and momentum that we wanted to harness. So over the summer, after that meeting, we collected people's contact information who were either at the meeting or who weren't able to attend, but who wanted to get involved in some way. And we was a group of people, so Anna Mae and other people, Jim McCauley from Riverside Trauma Center and other community members involved in the initial meeting kind of continued to meet and talk over the summer. And we held a meeting again in the fall, September 2017, and that kind of was, we invited selectmen, we invited Denise Garlick, we invited representatives from the public schools, a whole, parents, I think even youth, and we all came together, and that was kind of like the first official meeting of our coalition that grew into what's now called Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention. So that, that was, I guess, our first official coalition meeting. And we've been meeting ever since, and have done a lot of great work so far that we hope to continue.
And I know that I've been involved with some of it, and what was amazing was once this coalition was kind of formed, there was a lot of people on the outside that wanted to know what's going on. We want to help. We want to be involved. And really, what I found was like we were so young at that time, and it was such a difficult topic that it's really a slow process that we're trying to go through and try to navigate. So one of the things that we have now, and we formed this and created it, was this beautiful website. Which Chelsea, you talked about. You wanted to mention the people that kind of made the website happen. We had two people, a student and a photographer.
Yeah, so we as a coalition wanted to have a website where we could have resources that were available to community members or to anyone who was interested in knowing more about suicide prevention. And we had a great Medfield High School student, Chloe Dudley, who took on this project of creating this website for us. And we are so grateful to her. She was so professional and amazing and helpful. And she, with permission, used the photographs of Colleen Sullivan, who we also really appreciate. And we have her beautiful photographs. So all of the photographs on the website are Colleen's work.
Yeah, and then obviously one of the things that is so important for us was to get the mission and the statement of the coalition out there to people. And so I'll just read it right from the website. Our mission is to promote the mental health and emotional well-being of all community members, to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and educate our community to help end suicide. Our vision is to build a community where suicide, self-harm, and stigma have been replaced by hope, self-care, and acceptance. I mean, it's just a beautiful.
It is.
It's
well done.
a beautifully written, and it's a beautiful message that we put out there. So one of the things that we've done now, we had the event, the coalition was created, and then Anna Mae, you kind of headlined an event that we have here, the Ripple Effect. Can you tell me a little bit about this? Speaking of hope, this movie that we kind of displayed was amazing. It was amazing.
Yes, no, it was, because when we met last spring, we had brought up, September is the month of suicide awareness, and we thought, all right, how can we bring the community together to really kind of solidify and really kind of launch our work that we're doing? So we thought of screening Suicide: The Ripple Effect. A few of the community coalition members had seen it, I think, in Bellingham last year, and they thought it was a great idea. So, and his story is really powerful. It is a message of hope, and it's also, again, building the tools. Many of us who are not educated in terms of suicide, how to talk about it, what to look out for. Again, we're building our tools so that we can help others. And so this film, there are a lot of myths out there, so this countered a lot of the myths, I think, and it's a powerful story. And so I think that was a successful event. We had, I forget how many we had, about 75 or so shows.
Yeah.
It was a good audience. It was a very. I was
Yes.
there filming for Medfield
Yes.
TV, which we're putting together. You guys had the board there, or not the
the
board,
panel.
but the panel
Yes.
to discuss it, which was awesome. So that is actually being edited currently
great.
as we speak.
Perfect.
It'll be out soon, so people can
Great.
see that as well. But yeah, it was a wonderful event, and really there was, like you said, like 75, 80 people that were there to watch it.
Yes, and I think, we invited other communities. So again, this is for everyone to share, not just Medfield, because I think a lot of people, it touches home for a lot of people. And I thought the panel discussion, some of the questions were really, they were very honest, and I think the panel did a beautiful job answering the questions, and we provided, some resources outside, which was very helpful. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So Chelsea, actually, you alluded to this. Chelsea, can you tell us a little bit about what this is? This is something that the coalition has worked hard on putting together, and you'll see them around town. You see them all over the place. I know Medfield TV, we host some of these cards, but tell us a little bit about what this card is.
Sure. So this was one of the, I think, very first projects that the coalition took on of creating and disseminating these interface referral service resource cards. And so what it is, letting community members know about the resources that are available to them. So on the front of the card is the number for Interface Referral Service, which is a mental health service referral line that all Medfield residents are able to use for free. Medfield purchased a contract with the Interface Referral Service, which is based out of William James College. And it's staffed by clinicians and interns in their graduate programs. So it's all trained professionals who are answering the phone, you know, hearing your story and connecting you with providers, mental health providers who might be a good fit for what you're looking for. So it's great. Again, it's free. And you can call and get matched with 2 to 3 potential referral sources that you can kind of shop around for, because we know that it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. You know, every therapist is different, every person is different, and if you're looking for a mental health professional, you want to make sure it's a good fit. So Interface takes all of your information. They find you providers that take your insurance, that have availability, that are within a distance that you're able and willing to travel to, and who match your needs. So if you're asking for a specific, you know, someone who might specialize in OCD, for instance, they'll find you someone who that's their specialty and who takes your insurance. They get back to you within 2 weeks, and again, they give you at least 2 or 3 potential options so that you can find, you know, the best fit for you. So we wanted to make sure that everyone in the community knew that this was available to them, you know, youth and adults. So that's kind of what this card is. We kind of tweaked it off of, I think, Needham's card that they had distributed for their residents, and kind of added our own spin on the back of the card. That was kind of our main, like, shining moment, and Medfield's kind of personal stamp on the card is, you know, in addition to the Interface Referral Service, there's a list of other resources, including helplines for crisis support. So 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Helpline, Samaritan's Helpline, and, you know, call to talk or call to text. If you or someone you know is experiencing a mental health crisis or just needs someone to talk to, we wanted to make sure that every resident in Medfield had these resources in their hands. So,
and I think that was the thing for me that was amazing is this isn't just a resource for people who are struggling. It's also a resource for people who know someone who's struggling, because that's one of the difficult things to breach as well, isn't just, you know, getting someone to call for themselves, but is what do I do if I know or I'm worried about someone else? What do I do? And this is what this is also going to help you with as well. It's going to give you those types of, as we go back to, those tools to be able to use. And speaking of the tools, there's this card, and then there's also QPR training, which is something I don't think a lot of people know what QPR training is and what it does, but it's just like CPR training, but for this. And so can you tell me a little bit about what QPR training is?
Sure. So just like you said, it's like off the CPR model of just, it's meant to prevent suicide and to get loved ones or people you care about or know, even if it's a neighbor, a friend, a family member, to get them connected to appropriate mental health resources. So it trains gatekeepers in the community, whether you're a parent, a friend, a coach, a teacher, a neighbor, the mailman, whoever. It trains, you know, a cadre of gatekeepers who are able to have that conversation with someone they are worried about. So it gives people the tools to engage someone in a conversation. I'm worried about you, you know, are you thinking of suicide? Are you thinking of hurting yourself? Are you thinking of killing yourself? And that is a question that is, you know, people who take this training are trained to ask. It's a hard question. It's not easy to ask, but what the training, one of the main key points of the training that I think is helpful for people to know is asking that question does not put the idea in someone's head. I think a lot of people worry, well, I don't want to ask about if someone's thinking of killing themselves because I don't want to give them that idea. And research shows that that's not true. That's not how it works. It is okay to ask that question if you're feeling worried about someone. And this training allows you to not only be able to feel comfortable asking the question, but to know how to get someone the support they need if the answer is, yeah, I have been thinking about it. So it's for everyone. It's not for mental health professionals. It's for anyone. It's usually like an hour and a half, 2-hour training. We've had several in the community. We had one most recently at the Council on Aging on a Saturday, and it was pretty well attended for a Saturday morning.
Yep, very well.
And it's great, and it just, again, it's a good tool to have in your toolbox. So if you've been trained in CPR, hopefully you never need to use it. But you have the skills, if you ever do, to save a life. And that's exactly what QPR is. It's providing people the tools they need to help save a life, and to be able to structure that conversation.
And one of the things I think I pulled away from the ripple effect in that event is the fact that he expressed the fact that I just wish someone asked me, are you okay? And he said it was even to the point where he's standing on the ledge and he said, someone came up to me and I was hoping they would ask, are you okay? But instead they just asked me to take their picture. And that for me was the part where I was like, wow, like just asking simple questions like, are you all right? What's going on with you? That was something that I pulled away from the ripple effect the most, was that, for sure.
Totally.
One of the other things that I think we were going to talk about today was actually, I think it might be, this might not be the correct word to say, but it's misleading the statistics a little bit because we read headlines, and oftentimes what is in a headline is tragically, a younger person when they die by suicide. But really, the statistics show it's actually about 42% are 45 to 64 years old. And then it's mostly white males that are doing this. And so when we look at these, it's important for us to realize who we should be reaching out to. And it's everybody.
Yes.
You should be checking up on everyone. But you shouldn't walk past, the older adults. You should be checking in on everyone.
No, absolutely. And I think, I think another takeaway from this film in relation to that is sometimes they feel that the world is better off without them, no matter the loved ones around them. So that was really quite jarring for me. He thought everyone would be better off without me. And if you talk to, family members, of course not. So it's just, and I think that was one of the questions in the panel is, how do you really know, when they were saying, are there drastic changes to behavior or various things? But, it's to me, it was most shocking, that piece of they truly believe life is better, and it's not.
Right.
And there are people who want to help, and there is help out there. So, but and I think one of the reasons why we asked the Council on Aging, the elderly population, not only the single white, or not even single, the middle-aged white men, with the highest proportion, but every tier in society, no one is immune. So we really, our goal is to get training. All the teachers in the Medfield Public Schools, they got training last year. They're at the front lines with our students. So it's important that they have the training, so they got it. And there's more training to be done, of course. We'll never, we can never, be satisfied, so to speak. Our work continues. But the Council on Aging, we're trying, faith-based communities as well. So the mission is really to mobilize people to be aware.
We had QPR training at the Public Safety Building, I think 2 winters ago, for first responders. that was pretty well attended as well, so that policemen, fire, or police, fire, EMTs could get trained in QPR as well, because they're definitely on the front lines, and they work in all age brackets.
Yeah.
Yeah, it affects
Absolutely.
everyone.
And one of the stats that kind of jumped out to me is 2015, 631 people in just Massachusetts alone died by suicide. That's a staggering number. It's one that I think jumped out at me and really, I think a lot of people don't think that it's in our community, that it's around us. People kind of just, until it happens, people think it's not going to happen here. But that's a staggering number especially for, to look at, that it's close to home. It is close to home. One of the things that I did want to talk about, you mentioned the signs that someone can be looking for. The CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, put out 12 signs that are of suicide, and just to go through these. Feeling like a burden, like you said, being isolated, increased anxiety, feeling trapped or in an unbearable pain, increased substance use, looking for a way to access lethal means, increased anger or rage, extreme mood swings, expressing hopelessness, sleeping too much or too little, talking or posting about wanting to die, and making plans for suicide. Now, some of those are pretty obvious. Obviously, if there's making plans for suicide, that's a big time red flag that you should be talking about. But some of these are also, everyday things, feeling anxiety. Like people feel anxiety every day. People sleep in all the time. So I think what's important is that note in our head that's, if you see these signs, just check in with simple questions. Let people know that you care and that you're there for them, that the world's not better without them, right? And I think that that's really the big thing to pull away from this, is you should just check in with people and see how they're doing. And those QPR trainings teaches you how to do it,
Definitely. And I think, what they often say too in some of these QPR trainings is to ask, are you okay, or how are you doing, twice, especially with young people, but really with everyone, because I think when we walk around every day, how are you doing? Oh, good, how are you? And that's kind of just the script that we all follow. But to really sit down and ask someone, how are you doing? Oh, I'm fine. No, like, how are you doing? And to really show them, like, I'm here to listen to you. I'm just here to listen. I want to know how you're doing. I want you to be honest. It makes a huge difference. It kind of breaks down that social script that we all follow and lets the person know that you're here to listen and you care about them. So that's really important.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I learned, obviously being in the media world, is the new media guidelines, things of how you talk about this after, or how you present this type of information. And you've seen today, we've talked a lot about death by suicide or something like that. The word committed we want to take out of our vocabulary. The idea being that you commit a crime, you commit a sin. That's not how we want to think about this. This is something totally different. So can you tell me a little bit about some of these media guidelines? Either we can read through these, but some of the things that are really simple, like sensationalized headlines, is to use those instead of saying, they use Kurt Cobain as an example. Instead of saying he used a shotgun to commit suicide, you can say Kurt Cobain dead at 27, which, again, not a message you want to send out, not a headline you want out there, but a very different message that's being put out there. So definitely we'll have these up here on the screen so people can see them. But tell me a little bit about the media guidelines, why that's important.
Definitely. Well, just as you said, to not sensationalize, to not focus on means of death, to present accurate information about someone died by suicide, but to not focus on that. That can be really triggering for people. It can sensationalize. We do worry about the contagion effect of suicide, and trying to not as suicide as contagious in the way that an illness might be contagious, but to control the messaging around it, to make people feel like this isn't an out of control epidemic, but it is something that's a public health issue and something that we need to focus on and be aware of. But to let people know that there are resources out there. So I think one of the, working from a mental health, perspective of having resources readily available on the screen. So the National Suicide Prevention Helpline, which we can, is 1-800-273-TALK. And we can have that displayed on the screen, or any media outlet can have that displayed on the screen as they're reporting on a suicide death. People who are watching may be triggered by their own experiences with suicide, and so to have those helplines readily available for people is really important. And again, exactly, changing the way that we talk about suicide, switching the language from commit to die by suicide is huge. That reduces the stigma of it as well. And I'm not an expert on media reporting guidelines, so I refer to these guidelines all the time. Like, I have to look them up all the time to make sure that I'm following best practices. That's why they have them out here.
Well, like you said, it's not contagious like an illness, but it gives the idea. So one of the big ones I know you're not supposed to do is talk about how they did it or where they did it. You're not supposed to show images of the location. You're not supposed to talk about those things, because that's where, when you say that it's contagious, is oftentimes it can give people ideas. And that's where I think that it can get tricky. And so these guidelines are so important in that, because it is a tricky topic to talk about, and it is hard to report on. So I think that these are so important for that.
And I think it's true that it provides safe guidelines around reporting, but it doesn't, encourage people to not talk about it. We should be honest. If someone died by suicide, we should be honest about how that happened and that it was a suicide death. But to not focus on any of the details, that's not what's important. To remember the life of the person who died, and to be able to name suicide without, making that the sole focus, to focus on the person rather than the means of death.
And I think about this now. We live in a time where almost everyone's a reporter. Almost everyone can post, and I don't mean to belittle reporters, but everyone can make a post. Everyone's going to say something. Everyone's going to put it out there. And it's so important for people to be aware of what they should and should. It's not so much what you shouldn't be saying, it's more of what you should be saying.
And how you're saying it, and
exactly.
what you're saying. Yes, and just being, mindful. I can't imagine, just posting something without all the facts, being mindful of the family members and the friends. There needs to be responsible reporting.
We've definitely shown the website already. We'll talk about that. It's a tool for people to go to. It's something that people can use all the time. So as we finish up this discussion, we'll talk a little bit more about the website. I think it's important that we look at that. If we sum this all up, it's really talk to people, see how they're doing, check in on each other, and then these QPR trainings are available. But the Medfield, it's medfieldcsp.org is
yes.
the website, and it's a beautiful website. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Chloe did a wonderful job, and then we were lucky enough to have Colleen's photos all over it, which Colleen is a beautiful photographer.
Yes, we wanted to have pictures, the comforting photos of home, of Medfield, and just...
Yes, because all the photos were taken in Medfield.
Yes, so that was important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I welcome people to go to the website. There's a Get Involved page, because after people see this, there's a huge... I have a feeling there's going to be an outcry of people who want to help. There's going to be a lot of people who want to get involved, and this is where you should go. And there's a Get Involved page.
Yes.
So what would that lead you to? Where would that go?
So if you go to Get Involved, which is one of the tabs on the top of the page, there's a form that you can fill out where you can put your name and contact information and give some information, a little comment about what you're looking for, or, question. If you have a question, if you want to get more involved, and then, we'll reach out to you and let you know if there are any events like, another Suicide the Ripple Effect film screening, for instance, where we had great volunteers help us that were really essential for making the event flow. So depending on what's going on with our coalition at the time, there might be a myriad of ways to get involved. So, yeah.
And then the last thing I actually want to say about the website, because I think it's an amazing addition that You mentioned the reason why it's there. The I need help now button that's on every single page. That's something that as you're reading this and you need help or you want it, there's a button that's easily accessed for anyone. So again, the medfieldcsp.org is a wonderful, wonderful website to go to if you need any help at all or if you need something to go to.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to thank the two of you for joining us today.
Thank you.
This was
Yeah,
a
thank you.
wonderful discussion. I hope it helps people. I think that one of the biggest things that I think the Medfield Coalition for Suicide Prevention brings is hope. And it really brings it in a beautiful, wonderful way. And so I want to thank the two of you for joining us and for being such a huge part of what we're doing here.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
thanks
much.
for having us.
Absolutely. And thank you for watching. And I hope you enjoyed this discussion. One of the reasons why we're here. Minneapolis, she is of the Cultural Alliance.
Get you to keep coming back for those
So
prescription
that
drugs.
goes right to our pharmacy.
But then you have the nice